So this is what peak oil, the machinery of peak oil looks like. This is one of I have 3 really geeky charts that I'm showing you. And the only reason I'm showing you these charts is because it's really important. A couple things are important, is that don't let them own all the charts. Does that make sense to you at some level? Because when someone shows that up there, like most of us go, oh shit, that's really, what the hell is that? Pretty much, right? Let's just be honest, okay? Okay, so the point of these is that, and this is what I've done most of my life. It turns out, I started as an undergraduate, I would look at these things and I was sitting there and I listened to these guys talk about it, and then my job on uranium mining was how I started organizing. I think a lot of you know this. Is I take the government documents that were written in that, whatever they write those documents in, stuff, and I take them and I translate them into common English so that people could understand, right? Because people have a right to be informed as to what's going to happen, yeah? And then they had to translate them into Navajo, right? Which is the same problem you're dealing with in the North, is that the documents are all written like this, right? But the essential point of this that I want to point out to you is that this is the US energy economy and the amount of waste that exists in the economy, and Canada is, I'm sure, the same. That is between point of origin and point of final consumption, 57% of the energy is wasted. And so I present this to you because it is inefficiency in power plants, right? It is high voltage transmission lines, power loss, right? And it is inefficiency in all the materials production systems, and then it is finally inefficiency in every building like this. And the simplest examples might be the fact that a light bulb, an incandescent light bulb produces, you look at it and 90% of the energy in the light bulb is heat. 10% is light. And what you're after is light, right? So do you understand what I'm trying to express to you? And the reason I'm expressing this to you is because I'm going to talk about renewable energy shortly. But in general, the argument is made that there is no way to meet present electrical demands or projected demands with renewable energy as a base load. Have you heard this argument before? You understand what I'm saying? And the argument that must be countered, must counter that, is who would want to? The reality is why would you want to reboot such an inefficient system, right? Because no system that is so inefficient is in any way sustainable. So that's why I show you this, and I'll leave all this data for you, but part of what we have to do is, in America and in Canada, there is the repeating of the lie. And the more times they repeat, just because they lie and they keep repeating the lie, does not mean that it is true. And so it is essential that we clarify what is true, and we educate our people as to what it, you change the terms of the debate, in other words. So that's the only reason I'm showing you that. Okay, next one's be a surprise to me. Well, you know this already. The idea of the rebooting of the nuclear industry, really bad idea, as you know. This is growth. Of the nuclear power plants, the 65 nuclear power plants on a worldwide scale that are supposed to be saving us in the face of global climate destabilization, 25 of them have been planned for the past 30 years. In other words, this is not a new boom that they're talking about. You all understand what I'm talking about here, right? That they're saying nuclear power is going to save us from climate change, right? That's a false argument, and that's the growth rate. And the reason the growth rate is like that is because all of you and your parents and I fought the last round, and they haven't built a new nuclear power plant in the US for 30 years, right? And the reality is that they have, the longer you fight these guys, the more expensive their projects are. And you all know this, right? As an essential tactic in dealing with their system is that they already have cost overruns. The longer you fight them, the more expensive they are, until eventually their investors will fall. So it is not an absolute strategy, but it is a strategy. It doesn't work all the time, but it works a hell of a lot of times. Okay? So I'm telling you that because the reboot of the nuclear industry is entirely predicated in the US on subsidies. Nobody will invest in them, right? And so they're trying to get the US taxpayers, Obama's trying to give $36 billion to reboot the industry. But that's the great And this is the costs. And the costs of, you can see. And the longer we can fight and the more we can get into renewables over the longer haul, the better it will be. And the other thing about renewable energy, which you know, is that you invest now, but you can project the price of fuel into the future, right? Because the price of uranium is very high. Yep. And the price of gas is going to keep going up with peak oil and natural gas, right? But renewable energy, once Saskatchewan and Alberta get all hooked up, we're good. Yep. Pretty much, right? Oh yeah, this is my last really geeky chart. We just put this in. So I'm not actually sure how, I shouldn't say I can't interpret it for you, but I wanted to show you, because a lot of you are dealing with mining that does not have to do with energy. That's the only reason I wanted to point this out to you. So this is the linear economic system, and 99% of it is pure waste to the bottom. It's the same thing, if you understand what I'm saying. And so in this, you've got biotic being agricultural, and then the majority, of course, being mined resources of a materials system. The challenge that we're going to face that I'm going to talk a little bit about at the end is how you reduce the inputs into the system. I'm not a natural capitalist. You know, this is from natural capitalism, the analysis. I'm not a capitalist, actually. But I'm just using this to show you a little bit about the impact of the mining industry and how much is wasted. Because the entire system is predicated on a very wasteful strategy, which you know. And the more money, the more that they make more money by selling more. Nobody does well by being efficient.
You keep mentioning waste. How hard was it for you to get the data to prove how wasteful it was?
Well, this is Amory Lovin's data.
Okay.
I didn't do this chart. I should, the other one was Lawrence Livermore Labs. I just
I saw that, yeah. Go
to their stuff. So this is Amory Lovin's Rocky Mountain Institute. He is like the supreme geek of this stuff. I don't know if any of you have ever heard him talk, but I'm saying is like I listen to these guys, and then like my job is to make sure that the native people understand that what they're saying. But, he's good. He's really. Did you have a question?
I just had a comment. It just came out the paper just came out a few weeks ago in New Scientist. The guy looked at the total solar energy input and predicted that in order for for the amount of fossil fuel energy we need today, we have to we need about a third of the Earth's surface for solar, dedicated to solar energy.
Yeah, first, you don't want to reboot the system. And second, I'm getting my little time thing here. Second, which I asked them for. And second, not actually entirely accurate. But I'm just showing you these because when you talk about all of these issues of the mining we're fighting, for instance, as you get into peak minerals, what is left out there has more ways to get to it, right? And so all of this becomes more augmented. And it's really important just to not let them control the debate. That's what I'm saying in this set of statistics. Now I think I'm getting to this is the last slide I'm going to show you on what the problem is, and you know this problem because this is a Canadian problem. The average meal travels 1,546 miles from farmer to table in the US. Price of oil goes up, what happens to price of food? Goes up, right? Most of the food that's out there right now has 15 calories of fossil fuel to produce 1 calorie of food. Go figure how sustainable that is over the long haul, right? Fossil fuel slathered on all the way through the system. So I'm telling you this, which you know, but I'm reiterating it for you because our plan is not all of these. And the solutions are very, very simple. The other thing is in your community, wherever it is, this is a study we did on my reservation, which basically you can do in any community. But my reservation spends $8 million a year on food. And of that $8 million, we spend $7 million off reservation at Walmart and Food Service of America pulling food in, right? We have no local food economy. And that represents a quarter of our economy on my reservation. Is this making sense to y'all? Mm-hmm. The energy economy on my reservation represents another quarter, and